Hi everyone. So, it's come to my attention that there have been some projects, let's say, that have popped up ever since I released my 2 videos on my old Fnaf fan games. But here's the thing. A lot of these projects include characters copyrighted by the This Is My Stuff Don't Touch organization. So, in light of people not listening to me and making their own original Fnaf fan games, it is my legal right that me and my team, at the very least, monetize on this content. Don't you think? Okay, jokes aside, I am very flattered that you guys like the idea of my old Fnaf fan games. So much so that you actually went ahead and took a crack at it yourself. Now, I'll reiterate something I said in the comment section of my other videos before. I think it would be a better use of your time to make your own Fnaf fan games. Who knows, you could even be in a situation like me in the future where someone else will remake your game. It's a lot more rewarding to make something unique rather than to imitate someone you look up to, even if everyone who makes a Fnaf fan game is basically doing that. But anyway, my point still stands. To be honest, I was surprised at the amount of projects that actually popped up after my video gained traction. I have never really been in a situation before until recently where people were so interested in my work that they went and made copies of it. Closest thing I ever got to that before is like fan art. So I'm honored that I entertained you enough to take another stab at stuff like Survive Freddy and Plush a horror game. With that being said, in this video, I'm going to look at a few of these fan games and compare them to the originals, while also determining if they surpass them. There are a lot of remakes out there that don't have a ton of content in them, so in this video I'm focusing on specifically remakes that have actual gameplay in them so that I can actually, play them. Also, most of these games are made in Scratch, or a modified version of it which wraps it into a Windows app. So most of these games have that Scratch fan game quality to them, most with drawn assets and then the general unpolish you would expect. While these games may not be spectacular, I'm mainly comparing them to my old games, since to be honest, they are a lot better than what I was able to make. So let's get started. So this title is pretty self-explanatory. It's a remaster of my first game, Survive Freddy. So this game is essentially the same gameplay-wise with a few tweaks. For a refresher, in Survive Freddy 1 and 2, because that game was a reskin, all you had to do in the game was put on a mask whenever Freddy entered your room in order to survive. Do this until the timer runs out and you win. This game has that mechanic, however, you have a few extra things you need to manage. For starters, you now have lights to look down the hallway. Thank God. And second, you have a door which can block some of the enemies. Only one of the doors work though, so you can use the mask to defend yourself from animatronics that enter your room directly. I like how this kind of mixes the original game mechanics while expanding on them too. There's definitely more content here even at the surface level since we have an actual working camera too. It even includes all of the original cast of characters from my game, but they diversified their playstyle. The designs of the animatronics I saw were kinda weird. Like, they're all Freddy's, yes, but they all have like this pointed fur on them, which, if I am correct, is just a hair node, which has not been properly rendered in Blender. This could have maybe worked better if it was shorter, but it looks kinda goofy the way it is now. The phone guy was replaced with Bonsai Buddy of all voices, which is hilarious. And I found out that you could just skip the night if you click this totally not misplaced Toy Chica in the office, huh? Would you look at that? So I would definitely say this is an improvement over the first Survive Freddy game gameplay wise. It is a bit rough around the edges, but it's actually a game. Survive Cherry was the first fan game recreation I stumbled across after I made my video. I was able to watch the development of the first beta in real time, and it was interesting to see the game be built from the ground up. This version of Survive Freddy kind of takes on a more remixed approach, where they pull parts of multiple fan games and mesh it into one game. Like for this game, they pull from Survive Freddy 4 and Plush, which is an interesting selection, but hey, they made it work. And before we get into the gameplay, I just want to go over the character roster. They all look good. There's definitely a unified art style to all of the characters, and they actually adapted a joke character I made up on the spot in my last fan game video into a Golden Freddy type character, which I find hilarious. We have Cherry and White Cherry in both their withered and unwithered forms, Blue Boy, Toxic Foxy, and all the plushes from my plush games. Yeah, I can dig this. The gameplay in this only includes 2 nights, which are the first and last night, weirdly enough. The first night is your typical Fnaf fan game shtick, but again, it implements a bunch of random mechanics from all of the Survive Freddy games. The mask has been transformed into a cherry-themed gas mask used to protect you from Toxic Foxy. That makes sense. And then you have doors that deal with Blue Boy and Cherry. There is also a taser mechanic, which I'm not too sure what it's used for. Granted, I never encountered Cherry in the game either, so maybe it would act like a second measure to prevent your death from her. I don't know. Finally, on the last night, we switched to a mini game where we are inside the White Cherry suit and have to prevent ourselves from getting spring locked like in Sister Location, which is pretty neat. A plush also shows up here to make things more difficult, and you need to get rid of him by clicking on him when he shows up. Now, I have to admit that this is way too hard. The spring locks unwind too fast for me to keep them stable, so I kept on dying here. But listen, I'm not really in a position to talk about bad game design. I made Survive Freddy, for crying out loud. So it's really the thought that counts here. Overall, yeah, this is great. I like how all the assets were created solely for this project. I don't see a stolen asset in sight. Oh wait, hold on, that's stolen. Sue him. Hide from Cherry is yet another remake of Survive Freddy, which mixes a lot of elements together just like the previous game we looked at. Unfortunately, this game is busted. The menu screen for custom night keeps on popping up in this game whenever I try to change the view on the camera, which is bound to the scroll wheel of all things. And when I beat the first night, it didn't transition properly, so nothing changed at all. I have no doubt that this game would be alright if it weren't for all these assets randomly designed to show up and disappear. It actually makes it hard to focus on anything. Although, everything is here, and technically it's playable. The mask is there to get rid of people in your office, the taser was modified to a remote shock this time, and this time we even have a music box function like in Fnaf 2, all for the purple puppet, which makes an appearance in this game. Man, deep cut! I keep on forgetting I even made an alternate puppet in Survive Freddy 2. Props for at least getting some interesting characters. Speaking of which, let's take a look at the roster. We have Cherry, Blue Boy, and Toxic Foxy, the trio everyone seems to love, I guess. Withered Barry. I guess Barry is the gender bent version of Cherry. I don't know. We have, which is a purple puppet from before, so that's neat. Don't know why the name is messed up though. And then finally we have, I haven't seen this thing in any of my playthroughs of this game. What the f***? Aside from that character, every character is just like built. Look at the width of those shoulders. Oh my god. Now this might be surprising, but I'm still gonna say that this is better than my games because 1, it's an actual game, and 2, my old games were way more busted than this. The only reason I didn't really show that in my video originally is because I actually wanted to present the games for what they were meant to be, but trust me, I was running into assets randomly popping in and buttons just not working all the time. I guess I was just surprised by the general stability of the last few games we looked at in this video, where I just expected these things to work out the gate, but these are Scratch games after all. So good effort, please fix the bugs. So this is probably the most unique game out of the bunch, since all it really borrows from Survive Freddy is Cherry, and spins it off into its own thing. It adds a new bunny character which looks very similar to Bonnie, a turtle character, and a dog character, which is very interesting. And in terms of gameplay, it's solid. The AI does work and the mechanics make sense. It's just a bit simple. Like, it's just Fnaf 1 minus the lights to the side of the doors. This game stands out mainly for its unique setting and characters, and honestly, I could respect that. It gets very close to that make your own fan game message I told everyone a while back, but it just misses the mark because of Cherry. I'm honestly surprised about how good these characters look, judging by the fact that like it's a Scratch game. Usually in Scratch games you either import assets that you draw from somewhere else, or you just fail to draw. And this actually feels like, you know, they made the characters in Scratch, which is commendable. Not a bad game by any means. Good job on doing something different. Finally, we have what I can only describe as the most polished game out of the bunch. This game is actually made in CLICKTEAM Fusion, unlike the previous games, and has completely rendered 3D assets and environments. Even all of the returning characters got a facelift, like Kurt here, who is completely ripped from the bottom and has a super distorted face. This game has some of the most diverse cast from my series, pulling from Plush, Survive Freddy, and even more obscure ones like 3807, and even the Revolution. And this gameplay is crazy. It mixes so many elements while also managing to make things interesting, with remote doors and whatever the hell this thing right here is. I really like this one. Okay, can I stop pretending now? I made this. Yeah, I made this one. So yeah, surprise! I'm making a new Fnaf fan game after my nearly decade-long break of doing literally anything else. Some of you may have seen some of those weird posts in Morse code posted on my social media accounts, and a few mentions of a project called Project R scattered in some of my update posts. Well, this project is what all of those posts were referencing, and now I can finally talk to you guys about it. I was inspired to get back into making fan games by the overwhelming comments complimenting my past works, and just a general interest in the characters. So thank you guys for inspiring me to start creating again. And I know what some of you might be saying. Oh, Mike is just copying Oh Yeah, reacting to his game announcement. First of all, no, this project has been in development since June of 2022. And second, if anything, Oh Yeah is copying me. I'm not going to get into a ton of detail about this project today. That and more will be in its own separate video, which we'll be releasing soon, documenting a few things like the development of the game and other cool facts, so stay tuned for that. But if you guys want to start discussing the game right now, we have a Twitter you guys can follow, the official Game Jolt page is up, and a Discord server where you can interact with other people interested in the project, get updates on game development, as well as ask me questions about the game in the Q&A section. All the links for these pages will be provided in the description below. And with that being said, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.
DSA log 3807. We have discovered something truly unusual. Subject JMD has developed organic mass. It's alive.
You didn't stand a chance.
Have you seen the new Fnaf trailer?